And welcome back to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. Down a man tonight, Eric Eager, called away on urgent business, but he'll join us if he can a little bit later on. Jeffri Chadiha from the NFL Network, Soren Petro with you as we talk some Chiefs draft. Jeff, the Chiefs getting a high grade all around. What grade do we give it? We'll talk about that. Best pick, worst pick. Did Veach have to move up to make the moves he did for both Worthy and Suamataia? Is
that's how it goes? Okay.
That's well, you cram it together quicker. Suamataia is how Curtis has taught me. We'll find out. I want to hear him say it, and we'll go from there. Kelce gets a contract extension. The Chiefs appear to have moved on from Donovan Smith. The biggest need still remaining. We talk about it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast.
You're listening to the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast, the most in-depth analysis of the Kansas City Chiefs on planet Earth, breaking down the Chiefs like no one else can. Red, Gold, and Bold is hosted by Jeffri Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro. Jeffri Chadiha is a senior columnist and on-air personality for the NFL Network and NFL.com. Eric Eager is the vice president of research and development for Sumer Sports. Soren Petro is the afternoon drive host of the program on Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City. The Red, Gold, and Bold podcast is proudly brought to you by Gann Asphalt and Concrete, Kansas City's nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor, making parking lot problems disappear since 1994. Free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, and every project comes with a written warranty. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete. One contractor, all things parking lot. Now, here are the hosts of the best Chiefs podcast, Jeffri Chadiha, Eric Eager, and Soren Petro.
Thank you very much, Curtis. The draft is behind us. How did the Chiefs do? We talk about it right now here on the Red, Gold, and Bold podcast. And Jeff, first of all, for the record, if you're catching us via the podcast, you can always catch us on the stream live, Tuesdays at 8 p.m. We're coming at you in the midst of a thunderstorm. Like if you're catching us somewhere else,
scary.
Purple. It's purple on the radar. Yet here we are. Talk about manning your post and being ready to get the job done. That is us here tonight as we have thunderstorm galore going on. But we talked the draft. Everybody excited. Most of the grades. Have you seen anybody who doesn't think the Chiefs did a pretty good job?
No, I think everybody pretty much is in the same boat, and that depends on if you want to go A or B plus. I think that's the lowest I've seen, and that's pretty fair as far as an assessment of what happened there. I think a lot depends on how you feel about the two guys they drafted up top. I mean, there's other guys in the mix, obviously, but they needed to find a wide receiver. Had to find a left tackle. They found two guys at those spots. I thought the draft was very favorable to them in that way. You know, we mocked it up, but we were taking a lot of heat from people saying there's guys won't be available. They'll be long gone by then. And all of a sudden, Xavier Worthy's there late in the first round. And I'll let you say it again. Suamataia.
Suamataia. Wait a minute. Hang on. I got to look at it.
I don't want to hurt myself trying to pronounce it.
No, I know. And Curtis was teaching me today. He's like, you got to break it down into three. It's Suamataia.
Suamataia. Okay, I got it. Suamataia. So, you know, I really love that pick as far as the value they got in the second round. But yeah, I mean, I think you're looking at where they were drafting, what they were trying to get, the depth at those positions, for them to come away with two players they're excited about. And I think we'll get into what those players can be. I think it definitely was a win for them.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you go in and you say wide out and tackle are your needs, and you get two guys that were across the board kind of mocked in the first round, not mock drafts or the end-all be-all, but it just does speak to the fact that, you know, you landed the guys that you needed. You landed guys that were projected to be first-rounders with your first two picks. I don't know how you cannot think that was, you know, a positive occurrence for the Chiefs, and they're guys that seem to fit their personality as well, right? You get a, you know, speed receiver, something the Chiefs have needed for a while. You get a left
Well,
tackle.
they've had those, but they just couldn't catch the ball.
Yeah. Well, one that you're hoping
Let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
They had guys who could
Right.
run.
Yes, that is a valid point. But I think. Well, let's start there. Let's talk first of all about Xavier Worthy. They get a speed guy. Is that what you think is their best pick?
I think the tackle is their best pick. The thing about Worthy, and Eric's trying to get in, by the way, so you can check your email to make sure he's getting it done.
Okay.
The best thing about Worthy is the speed. I like the fit. I don't like the Deshaun Jackson comparisons just yet. That's a really high bar to set for a player. I always caution people with receivers as rookies. It's always tough, especially in this offense. I know Rashee Rice worked out, but the first half of the season, he was trying to, he was struggling, just get on the field. He was a package player. What this tells me is two things. One, it tells me that Hollywood Brown's only going to be here for 1 year, no matter what he does this coming season. There's some redundancy there that I don't like. People talk about they can put two fast guys on the field. Well, ultimately, there's ways to play coverage that can negate that speed. This really feels more like it's an effort to try to make sure Travis Kelce has more space underneath, that Rashee Rice has more space underneath, that they can open up the field more. I don't see this guy coming in and setting the world on fire. I will also throw out names of fast guys who I've seen before come in the league who've struggled. And you can go from Jalen Reagor, you can go to Will Fuller, you can go to Ted Ginn Jr., you can go to Henry Ruggs, you can go look, I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and I'm still waiting for Jameson Williams to become the home run threat that he was in Alabama. So I think it's going to take some time. I like the kid. I like the fit.
Yeah, I do too. And you mentioned the guys that they've had in MVS and Kadarius. I mean, catching the ball is important, right? And that's the part that is missing with that receiving core. But this is a guy that can stretch the field, catch the ball. It's just something that is, I think something that Andy Reid thinks is critical for his offense to have. And that's a guy that can go down the field, stretch it, open things up for the guys underneath, open things up for guys to work in and around. I think it's, if you don't have that element, there's only so much you can do. And they won without that last year.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's not the plan, right? The plan is to have every aspect of it. And we have Eric Eager, which I don't know. I think the Storm maybe playing Fitz.
Can't spell an email.
Can't
spell an email address, Petro.
No, because I had the spinny wheel.
Yeah.
I had the spinny wheel on my email, and it went out. So I sent it a couple more times. I don't know. Listen, Jeff and I have purple on the radar pounding us right now. So that's our that's my excuse right now. So
Eric coming in hot.
Finally, yeah, it got through to Jeff. It didn't get through to Eric.
We're just gonna start without Eric. Hey, couldn't call him. Couldn't if I had text messages on if I had text messages on anything but silent, I could not get a moment's silence in my life. So call me, Petro. Jesus Christ.
You got mad at me.
What are we doing here?
You got mad at me.
Friends who can't call me?
Of course. I got a birthday party going on in my house right now for my 14-year-old that I ran down here last minute trying to get his.
You can understand not wanting it to be loud inside the house.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts on Xavier Worthy?
Good pick. Great, good process. Yeah, it was. I thought it was interesting that the Bills wanted to trade the pick to the team that knocked them out of the playoffs three of the last 4 years, including this year. I thought that was, I thought that was interesting. I thought that Worthy is, when you look at the list of wide receivers that are all running, sub 4.3 Worthy had kind of the best college production, the best tape, the best route running. So I think all the people who are kind of poo-pooing the pick as him just being a speed guy, I think are a little bit missing the forest for the trees there. So I like the draft pick quite a bit for Kansas City. I think that Buffalo, I don't mind them trading back, as far as that's concerned, from a competitive standpoint, but because they're kind of where the Chiefs were in 2022, frankly, without the Super Bowl. But I love the pick for the Chiefs. I thought Brett Veach nailed it.
How much of a concern is 160 pounds, Jeff?
It's a big concern. It's a huge. I mean, again, I go back to, I like fast guys as much as anybody else, but when you're in the NFL, a lot of guys are fast, and a lot of guys are big and physical. And his challenge is to prove that he's going to be able to escape press coverage. He's going to be able to make catches when he's not running free by 20 yards. Again, that list of receivers I just rattled off, if you want to go back and look at the last 10 years about guys who were blazers and what they've done in their first year in the NFL, it's not a very long list. And again, it's like, I think he's a good player, but the idea that he's going to walk in here and all of a sudden be Tyreek Hill is definitely a huge leap in dreaming. Tyreek Hill is built differently. A very physical guy, a very stout guy. And yeah, I think 165 pounds, he's almost 15 pounds lighter than Hollywood Brown. And we were talking about the physicality, how it affects him. So I'm sure they have a plan for him. I'm sure they're excited about what he can do. I'm sure he will be electric at times, but I think people probably need to lower the temperature as far as what he's going to be in his first year.
Eric, we've had a couple of people talk about the kick return part. How much of this do you think was the Dave Tope fingerprints?
It's hard for me to think a guy that weighs that little. Like, the kickoff return is going to resemble a running play now. And so I don't think that he's going to be a kick return at all guy. I could be wrong. And kickoff returns historically in the NFL have always been like Dante. I actually don't remember what Dante Hall ran in the 40, but Dante Hall was always a better punt returner than a kickoff returner because he was always more quick than fast. The faster guys almost always ran kicks back in the old form. But I think now the kickoff return is going to be much more like a punt or a run play than it was ever the traditional Ted Ginn type kickoff return type thing. I think he's going to be more of a running back. I think that's honestly what that rugby player is for, not Worthy, unfortunately.
One thing I will say, not to cut you off, Soren, about the Buffalo thing, because people have brought it up and Eric mentioned it. I was talking to people in Buffalo about that because I was thinking the same thing. And the explanation I got made sense, which was they weren't as high on Xavier Worthy. They weren't going to draft him. And they thought the Chiefs were going to draft him at 32, regardless of what they did. And so to get a pick out of it was a worthwhile thing for them. People act like it was some kind of huge steal. It was just like, hey, you know what? They're taking him anyway. We don't want him. We'll take a pick out of it because we need picks.
Yeah, we're, by the way, proudly brought to you by our friends at Gann Asphalt and Concrete, nationally recognized full-service paving and pavement maintenance contractor. Parking lot problems, they've been making them disappear since 1994. Don't risk accidents and liability in your lot. Get a parking lot restriped today. Brightly striped lots cut down on accidents. Keep your parking lots as safe as possible. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com or call 816-484-3338. Gann Asphalt and Concrete, one contractor, all things parking lot. What do we, I think to your point, Jeff, on that, you couldn't find two more different wideouts than Worthy and who they took, right? And furthermore, like, the idea that they can somehow stop the Chiefs from getting better, like, you just have to make yourself better. So if the deal makes you better, you do it. I don't get all the hand-wringing over the Bills or the 49ers trading with the Chiefs. I don't get it.
No. Yeah, it's business. I mean, there is it makes no sense. As someone said, there's not one big board out there that everybody's drafting off of. Yeah, we all fall in love with the idea of looking at mock drafts and everybody's top 150 or top 200 or whatever and thinking, well, these receivers are the best out there and here's where they are. It's all about need and fit. Xavier Worthy has way more value to the Chiefs than he does a lot of other teams. If that's not the case, then other teams could have drafted him. You know, he would have been Roma Dunze. He would have been Malik Neighbors. He would have been Brian Thomas. These guys were all there at the same place he was when they were drafted, and those teams took those guys for a reason. Now, the Chiefs, again, they see him as, I'm presuming, as a Deshaun Jackson comp. And, again, I'm not trying to shit on the pick here because I like the kid. That sounds like I'm being negative about it.
I already met the swear quotient my first minute in, Jeff. You gotta
I'm saying the last time the Chiefs wanted to compare somebody to somebody Andy Reid coached, it was Brian Westbrook, and the guy was Clyde Edwards-Helaire. So again, I'm gonna take a step back, take a deep breath, and let's see how it plays out.
Yeah, listen, do they have to trade up though to get him in your mind, Eric? Did they have to trade up to get the offensive tackle in the second?
No, and that is Brett Veach's weakness. I'm a Brett Veach Bobo, but they do. Jeff is 100% correct on this. And granted, they have more players on their board than the average team at 221 from what Brett Veach said, but Jeff's 100% correct. These teams are not like Dane Brugler going out and listing 575 players on a draft board, right? Like that does not happen. And it's not like us using the PFF mock draft sim where it's like, I don't get Xavier Worthy and I'm going to get freaking Keon Coleman next and whatever, right? Like that's not how it works. Like these guys have like do not draft on like half their players for whatever reason. Like Keon Coleman, and I don't have any inside information here, I'm just guessing. But Keon Coleman, given his profile of a not being getting open guy, might not even have been on the Chiefs board, right? So if they let Xavier Worthy fall and all of us are like draft off the consensus board and they don't even like the guy, that's an issue. And I think that happens way more often than we like to think. And this is coming from me, analytics guy who doesn't like trade ups. The best Chiefs draft was the 2022 one where they got 6 defensive starters because they traded their best player, on offense besides Mahomes and all this stuff. I think like Ladd McConkey would have been great. Chargers got Ladd McConkey. I do think that's an issue. Now, Brett Veach has been at his best when he's had conviction. Patrick Mahomes, well, that was John Dorsey, but Patrick Mahomes and Trent McDuffie. But he's also been at his worst when he's had conviction. Trading back into the first round for Bo Peep Keys, or trading back into the draft for Bo Peep Keys and all this stuff. So I do agree with I think that question is valid. Do they always have to trade up for these players? I will say this. If you didn't like the Felix Anazuke-Uzama pick last year, that is what happens when you stay pat and take the best player available, a guy that no one's in love with. That ends up happening. So those are both sides of the coin. So I'm okay with the trade up. Ultimately, they didn't give up a ton, relatively speaking, compared to what they normally have to. These teams that are trading up are getting smarter at it, including the Chiefs. But yeah, I mean, if he ends up being a bust, like some of these other players, it's going to be doubly so because you gave up more picks for it.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I think I like your point about FAU being, hey, this is what happens when you stand pat, right? Like now he also had an injury. We'll see. They would probably tell you, no, we loved him. It's great. But I'm kind of with you in how that looked. I just, they trade up every time. Like Brett Veach's record for trading up is all of it -1. He has one trade down, right? That's still the only one, right?
And it ended up in Sky Moore, folks.
It was Sky Moore.
Yeah. So
one trade back. And he ended up with Sky Moore.
Yeah. Does this mean does drafting Sua? Hang on, I gotta look at it.
That's what Eric's saying.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric. How do you say it?
Do I have a special like way about me?
We want to see if we're right.
I don't know how to pronounce it either.
Yeah. All right. We'll go with what
You
Curtis.
think I'm going to be more right than you guys on this?
Yes, you usually are great with the pronunciations. Suamataia, does this spell the end of Donovan Smith? They certainly made it sound like that.
I think yeah. I mean, it was pretty clear that they want to let him battle it out with Wanye Morris, and that I think the next question, the press conference after that, was an answer that said, well, we lost Donovan Smith in free agency. So it didn't seem like there was a lot of warm and fuzzy feelings about getting him back. I think it's a bit of a risk, though. And I think just in the same way, I think there's some gambling going on with Xavier Worthy, that it seems like the book on this guy is that the left tackle is that he needs some development. He needs some time. He's a great athlete, phenomenal athlete. So in a way, I'm excited for the fact that they're willing to take this chance, because I've been lobbying, like, just draft somebody you care about and you like, and I will take credit for actually having picked him in the second round of our Chiefs mock draft. And the only pick we got right between the three of us was that one. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised that Veach said they were talking about him at 32. Like, I didn't know he was that well regarded in circles. I know he was more of a high second round guy. But yeah, I think that it does spell the end for Donovan Smith, and they are going to give it a go with him. And I mean, it's ride or die time now. I like it. I like the idea of giving a young guy a chance to develop into a starter.
Well, why didn't he go at 32, Eric? Why do you look at him and say, here's what's missing?
I just think it's development, right? I think there's like some elements to his game that are a little bit raw. There's also like competition issues there. Like, we just simply haven't seen linemen, come out of that place and be particularly strong of late. Like, Christensen was a lineman that came out of there recently, and that was a guy that we all liked. He ended up going in the third round to Carolina, and he wasn't quite as good. I mean, also run blocking. Like, when you look at PFF, for example, he kind of had a below replacement level college run blocking grade last year. He declined there last year, so that's a big deal. He gave up more pressures as in his final year than he did in his penultimate year as well. In fewer pass blocking snaps. In fewer snaps. So there's also the fact that we only have, basically 1 year of data of him playing left tackle at the college level. So there's a number of like real reasons why you don't see like the same kind of Oli Fashanu type hype or Joe Alt type hype in this, or JC Latham type hype in this player. Competition, but also experience.
Yeah. Listen, Jeff, you like playing the young player, right? But who do you think is going to win the battle? Should it be this kid, or should it be Wanye Morris?
I know who you think's going to win it. Who better win it? And I think the battle's already over in your mind.
Well, I don't think you're taking that position if you believe in Wanye Morris.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, look, it's the one thing about left tackle, unless you're getting a Joe Alt or someone, a Penei Sewell, someone who's no-brainer, top 5, top 10 guy, is that it's going to take some time. I mean, it's just people. I'm very comfortable with the idea of his athleticism being what you buy into, and you let him go out there and you make some mistakes. Patrick Mahomes has proven that he can play behind guys who are lesser athletes. Andy Heck has shown that he can develop players at that position throughout the offensive line. You can scheme it up in ways. So I think it's more about, to answer your question, I think that he wins the battle. You second round pick, you've got more invested in him. He's more athletic than Wanye Morris. His skill set overall is more impressive than Wanye Morris. But again, I think there's going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some moments. They're playing really good teams, really good defenses this year. And you just don't walk out there playing left tackle in the NFL and dominate people unless you've got some kind of Hall of Fame pedigree.
We're proudly brought to you by Northland Injury Law, Kansas City's Google 5-star rated personal injury lawyers, helping people with serious injuries, car accidents, work accidents, falls, other serious personal injuries. Their attorneys have been serving the Kansas City area more than 40 years. They don't get paid unless they get money for their clients. That's right. They don't get paid unless you get paid. Northland Injury Law voted #1 accident lawyer in Kansas City. Don't wait. Get compensated now. If you have a case, text HURT to 22222. Again, if you have a case right now, text HURT, H-U-R-T, to 22222 or call 816-400-HURT. That's 816-400-4878. Choice of a lawyer is an important one and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Text HURT to 22222 to get connected 24/7. Eric, do you have a favorite pick in the draft? Is there one that you think jumps out at you as the best value, or you just like the player?
I like Jared Wiley from TCU. I just thought that it's honestly crazy to me that they went back in with Kelce with more money. Now it comes back and looks like, granted, I was wrong. Tommy Moe, for the first time in forever, I'm wrong. But I thought Travis was going to retire after this season. He's clearly not. He looked like dust basically the whole regular season until the playoffs. And now all of a sudden they're bellying up and giving him more guaranteed money.
You
what?
Think you think he looked that bad? He looked like dust.
He looked bad. I thought
he looked terrible. Did you see the New England game in the regular season?
Yeah.
I think there were times that he clearly looked. Yeah, I think there were times he clearly didn't seem healthy.
He needed to take the San Diego game off because he could not run anymore. He looked terrible.
Yeah, there's an element.
And then
I know.
He didn't in the playoffs.
Yeah,
go ahead, Jeff.
I was just there's an element to that, and some of this. Chris Jones, the same thing, that they are getting perilously close to playing this game of thinking that guys are going to stay good forever because they're wearing a uniform and they've been around, they like them, and they're going to go to the Hall of Fame. And that's a really, we'll see if he finishes that contract. But I thought, yeah, it's if you really look at his season as a whole, the injuries, the way he played in the second half, you can even argue that 2 of those games in the playoffs, he was playing against defenses that were really beaten up at positions that were like the Super Bowl was an example. He had 0 catches until Dre Greenlaw got hurt, and all of a sudden he took off. So, yeah, I love Travis, but he's definitely declining.
Yeah, he's the best tight end in NFL history. Everybody can punch sand if they don't believe that. But he had 500 fewer yards in the and I know he missed 2 games, but that's the point. He missed 2 games. He had 5 freaking touch. He was bad for him.
He's had, yes, for him. Right, so that's what we're talking about. Well, let me ask you: when you say he was dust,
but the standard that this offense.
Did you freeze?
Did we lose Eric?
The standard that this offense is set is with Travis being the best tight end in the NFL, which he's barely anymore, if at all. And so they needed to, like I said, I like this pick, because I think that they need to bring somebody in and at least get back to like this offense in the future needs a different tight end who is like 70% or better of what Travis is. And this is the beginning of that, right?
I'll go to what, Jeff talked about tight ends playing well to 35, 36 years old. That's kind of the drop-off point. He did hurt the knee right before the season began. I do think he's banged up. I think it's important to note, you're not saying he sucks. When you say he's dust, it sounds like you're saying this guy's no good, right? But I understand how you're talking in context to what he was. I would give him the opportunity to come back, be healthy to start the year. Let's see what he does. He did run his fastest in the Super Bowl, right, after he got a little bit healthier. And I do think I'm with you. I like the pick because hopefully they've got an all-around tight end that can actually take some of the wear and tear off Kelce in the regular season. Right, that's to me where this pick has a chance. Noah Gray's solid contributor, but if they've got more where they can get production and he doesn't have to do it all the time, then hopefully he can be at his best in the postseason. Does that make sense?
It does. All these people are like, "Oh, Sam Laporta had 900 yards," and everybody's talking about how good he is. Yeah, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 1,500 yards last year, coach. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, the Chiefs had no one to throw to, and Travis didn't get 1,000 yards. Like, his target share was huge and should have been huge because he's throwing to, like, Pat was throwing to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. Like, this is, yes, I agree that other guys weren't as productive, but other guys had to share the targets with other players on the team that had pulses. The Chiefs had one other player with a pulse on this offense, and Travis couldn't get that. That's the whole thing. 2 years ago, Juju had 1,000 yards. Jerick McKinnon had like 12 receiving touchdowns. Marquez Valdes-Scantling was a real NFL wide receiver at the time, and Travis still put up like 1,400 yards. There are levels, and Travis was at a different level last year than he was in the other years. This is plain, right? And it could have been because of the injury, but he like all indications suggest he's going to fall off, right?
Yeah, at some point. I mean, like I said, we'll see this year for sure. By the way, I do have to throw some love. I know you love Tommy. He said, "Hey, take a shot of that honey I bought you last week." He did. I got it right here. Came by my remote and dropped off honey for my throat. It's the kind of guy Tommy is. I know he drives you crazy. I got to throw some love to Tommy. Drove clear across town.
Tommy's a good guy. Yeah, despite everything.
I wasn't there, so that he drove to the remote and dropped it off. So much love for the viewers and listeners of the podcast. Great folks like Tommy.
Yeah, Tommy. Yeah, like he's at least better than the Knicks defense on that last possession there.
I know it hurts you to throw any love towards Tommy Moe for sure. All right, what Jeff? Did you have a favorite pick?
Kingsley.
Yeah,
he was again because he was a guy who a lot of people thought wouldn't be there, and I think he obviously fills a need. But just Xavier Worthy was like the predictable, if he was there, Chiefs would take him type guy, right? He fits their MO. But to be able to find a guy at that point, they've been searching for a left tackle since Eric Fisher retired, and now they have a guy they can say is going to be around for at least 4 years to see if he can get the job done. So that was my guy.
Yeah, I like it. I'm with you. Kingsley's my guy too, but Jaden Hicks, by a lot of people's estimation, was a second round pick, and they get him in the 4th round. And I think you can look at, first of all, I like that because Edwards is gone, Cook's coming off a knee. The value was great, like I said, based upon where he was supposed to go, and Justin Reed is a free agent after next year. Like, I think that's a great pick for the Chiefs at 4. But can we also point out that they kind of got back to the let's pick the guy we need a year ahead, right? Like you mentioned, Marquise Brown looks like a one and done. Xavier Worthy's there to hopefully be ready to go and step in from him. I mentioned Hicks at safety. Wiley, perhaps. Eric Eager, if he's right, and we get more dust out of Kelce. They've drafted a tight end. Hicks at the safety spot. And then Norzad from Penn State, some people say can start at some point this year. And C.J. Hansen, they always draft a DB, not to take Kamal Hatton out of it. But it doesn't look like, I mean, they're clearly preparing for 1 or 2 of the interior 3 to be gone, right? Eric, you think?
As expected, as the people on this show talked about, yes, they are not going to pay $40 million APY to Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith and $60 million APY or $56 APY combined to their 3 interior offensive linemen. Who would have guessed? Yeah, like that guy's going to play in the next like year and a half.
Yeah, I mean,
sorry,
and I like him. I mean, again,
he's good. Yeah, he's got good data for sure.
Watch some video on him, read some things. I'm no scout, but Jeff, a lot of really good centers come later in the draft. Like that might be the pick that we on another. Listen, we've talked about it. Creed Humphrey snaps were not good. He played hard in that last game. I mean, I love this pick. I think that's another great pick.
Well, yeah, and you talked about. We'll talk about it in a second here, as far as what else they have to do. I mean, that offensive line still needs depth. You look at the depth chart there, and it's only a couple guys there. And I think Kingsley's like backing up right tackle. This kid is center and guard, Caliendo. You got to find a couple more linemen in there. So to have a guy who's got some ability, who can step in and play right away, yeah, it would not shock me if Creed Humphrey and Trace Book were gone next year. Yeah, it would not shock me at all.
Yeah, or Tooney and Smith, or
some combination.
Again, now they've got, they're not running into, we have to sign this guy, right? Which I think when you're a championship club, you don't run into that spot anyway. How about it, Jeff? You mentioned biggest need. What is the biggest need that's still looming?
I think it's still that. I still feel like you need to find a running back, not named Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who can give you carries after Isaiah Pacheco. I know they like Clyde. I know that he's been a trooper. I'm still shocked that he's here, but I want somebody more dynamic in that room who could actually do some things when Pacheco's not on the field. And I think, they 2 years ago when they had McKinnon, who I doubt is going to be back now, he's kind of seemed like he was on his last legs as well. He was just such a great threat for them. And Clyde doing what he did was a nice whatever he was, third option. But I think you need to have somebody that would be the second option and not have him be that. So that's got to be there. And their running back's going to shake free too. Once you get into after June 1, there'll be guys out there they can find, fill that void.
He says running back. Eric, what's the biggest need?
Nose tackle.
Really? Okay. Mike Pennell, Derek Nottie.
They didn't get an interior. They just didn't get an interior defensive lineman anywhere in this draft, right? Like we've been saying it and Mike Pennell better be ready to play.
Yeah. Am I the only one that looks at what the Chargers did and looks to me like they want to play rough it up football with the Chiefs?
That's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's
the Chargers are messing around. This is not your grandfather's San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's Jim Harbaugh's MO. Is that he wants to pound the rock. And to Eric's point about the nose tackle, Jeff, they're going to pound the rock. And the Chiefs are built to stop the pass, which is, the analytics world. Eric's been on the front edge of that for years about how that's the most important part. He's going to come in and punch this team in the mouth.
No. Yeah. No question. I mean, really, you're going to see a few teams that obviously Baltimore is going to play that way. Buffalo has learned to play more of that style. Like they're going to feature James Cook a lot more. It's the Niners, when they see them, they're going to be running the football. So, yeah, you're going to see a lot of teams that are sexy and Super Bowl contenders, but they're also going to be teams that want to get after it. You go back to that Green Bay game last year when they lost to those guys. You go back to the Raiders game, lost that game. That was a flaw that they were able to overcome in winning a championship that's going to be, again, picked at by opponents.
Yeah, I do. That's the one thing, like the Raiders, nothing to see here. Broncos, not a lot to see here, but Jim Harbaugh is going to Jim Harbaugh, and they better be ready for it. Who's the odd receiver out? Come back to Xavier Worthy before we touch on the stadium real quick. Who's the odd receiver out of that bunch? Xavier Worthy.
Just one? Pick just one?
Well,
can we not have two?
Give me right now who you put your money on being, assuming everybody makes it through camp healthy. Who's your six that make it?
So you're saying Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice,
Marquise Brown.
And
I'll put Justin Watson. I'll say those four are in.
Yeah.
Who are the next
left?
couple?
Sky Moore, Kadarius. Who else is there? Who else is in the mix?
Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Ross, Cornell Powell, Montrell Washington.
Cornell Powell still around?
Yep. Jacob Copeland, Anthony Miller, they brought in.
Yeah.
Nico Remigio, Reggie Brown, and Shi Smith, or She Smith, S-H-I.
I think they keep six.
Yep.
I think Justin Ross is the odd man out. They keep Sky and Kadarius.
Eric, who's the six?
Yeah, so it's Moore, Tony, Rice.
I think you're home. If you start with Moore and Tony, we can pick the other four.
Yeah. I would say, I think Watson makes it. That would be who I'd say.
I think he's a lock. I mean, I think there are 4 locks.
Yeah.
Worthy, Brown, Rice, Watson. And then it's a competition for the last 2. And I do wonder how much, I don't know enough. You've watched a lot more UFL and XFL football. I don't know what the change in the kickoffs does for special team needs. If it eliminates, it means Justin Ross can come in and be a wideout or what. But that'd be the only thing that I don't know how it fits on the wide receiver group.
Well, that's what I was going to say too. It's like you look at Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney. Like as far as special teams goes, I know Toney can return punts, but it's hard to see either one of those guys being in coverage units and being effective. And so it does create a little bit of an issue in terms of what you do with those guys as far as getting their money's worth from them.
Yeah. As we look over the horizon, we mentioned they do take Kamal Haddon, another corner. They took a safety. They're going to walk on Justin Reed after this year. Do we agree with that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Eric, he's done after this year?
I'm surprised they didn't at least consider cutting him this year.
Okay. At corner.
Just salary purposes, not performance, but just salary.
Yeah.
They take Haddon. They've now taken, 3 corners 3 years ago. 2 corner last year, corner this year. Are they going to put their money behind Trent McDuffie and sign him, or are they going to turn them all over?
Yeah, he's like a draft pick, right? Like they don't let their first rounders walk.
Yeah.
L'Jarius Sneed was a draft
when they're
pick.
good. Yeah, but a first round pick.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. Let's wrap with this. The stadium. Clark Hunt made it clear that they will listen to whatever. Now everything is on the table. State of Kansas is meeting, I think, maybe still right now, about putting forward their star bonds to make a run at both the Royals and Chiefs. Jeff, where do the Chiefs play football in 10 years?
Kansas. Right next to the Kansas Speedway, Sporting KC. What's that park called? I can't remember the name of it.
Children's Mercy Park.
Children's Mercy Park. Yeah. Nebraska Furniture Mart. They'll be right there somewhere wedged in between all that stuff or on the edge of it.
Other side of the racetrack.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, I know there's people out there, conspiracy theorists, who think the Chiefs through the election. I don't think it was that sophisticated, but they definitely didn't try to win it all that much, because I think they want what they've got now, which is, hey, everybody come look at us. It's like Olivia Newton-John in Greece walking into the set, shaking her booty. Who wants this?
What a reference.
That's right.
What a reference.
You're the one that I want. That's right. So,
R.I.P.
So they've got Kansas chasing after them. They got Missouri trying to figure it out. Quentin Lucas, the mayor, is getting involved. I'm sure the governor of Missouri, Mike Parsons, wants to say something to him. But I think Kansas is ready-made for them to go over there, and they've got the money. The phrase I saw in the news last night that I'm sure had to get Clark Hunt aroused was 100% financing. We'll build you a stadium. We got the money to do it. You hear that, it's hard to pass it up. So I think there's very much going to be a good chance that they're over in Kansas in 10 years.
If they've got a chance to get a $3 billion brand new dome.
Yep.
How do the Chiefs pass on that, Eric?
They don't. I mean, you guys have said this a million times, so I'm offering almost nothing here. But the 10 games a year, 12 to 13 if you're the Chiefs, you want to have that venue actually support things that are going to make money for the stadium, and like an outdoor stadium of that age is just going to have a harder time doing that. And concerts and things like that, and just like other things that a venue would hold, it's just going to have more staying power if it's something like that.
This dome's stuck. I'll never go to the new stadium. Well,
somebody will.
Yeah, you will.
Somebody will. Yeah, somebody will. I think the other aspect of this,
I got to be honest. Have either one of you, Jeff? You've been to US Bank Stadium in Minnesota. I agree that the Metrodome sucked.
Yeah.
But the new stadium in Minnesota is
beautiful.
A 10.
It's gorgeous.
The Lucas, RCA Dome or whatever, sucked. But Lucas Oil's great. right?
No.
Like these people are not idiots anymore. They don't make bad stadiums. So I'm sorry, but you're gonna like I hope none of you froze your toes off literally against the Dolphins having to watch Tua try to throw a football in January, but you won't have to do that in January if that happens.
I think the other aspect of this that Kansas potentially has is in the other part of like when you say 100% finance, what kind of practice facility can you build?
Yeah.
Right? When money's no object, because if it's like, well, we got to put in 400 million or 600 million, you end up with, and their practice facility's fine, but it clearly got outdated quick, right? From that renovation. And if you want to do some kind of does anybody know of a stadium that has a great development around it? A football stadium, not Wrigley or Fenway or
Gillette Stadium has like the whole mall around it, right? Like
the Cowboys do too. Yeah.
Well, the Cowboys are the one, but that's not by the stadium.
Yeah.
That's over by the practice.
Well, they've enhanced it. They just rebuilt. They just redid their baseball stadium. They've got some new swanky hotel. They're building in to that. That's what they're building around that area.
And what I've been told is, yes, on game day, it's great at Foxborough, but nobody goes there if it's not.
Yeah.
And that's my point. I don't know that, like in Houston, I go to Final Fours and Super Bowls in Houston. You do everything downtown, and then on game day, you go over to the stadium, right? Nothing is about being out around the stadium. Yeah, same thing. But the practice facility is people there all the time. And, that's where I think that was never talked about in the last one. And I think that's an important part, that if there's an unlimited amount of money to build your practice facility, that to me is a huge dynamic at this. All right, let's finish with our draft grades. What grade do you give the draft? Knowing we've got a lot of time and a lot of information still to become, what draft grade do you give the Chiefs draft, Jeff?
I'd give it an A. An A. It's it was pretty. I mean, again, they got what they needed. I'm not overly complicated about these things. They needed to find a receiver and a left tackle. They found two they like. They found two guys who, if they hit their ceilings or come close to their ceilings, can be really good players for a long period of time. They made the quarterback happy. They filled holes, and I think they're a better team because of it. So that to me is an A.
Eric, what grade do you give it?
Okay, my philosophy is it's hard to get an A, but I do think the Chiefs get a B. I would have liked to get a nose tackle. I would have liked not to have to trade up so much, but I do like the players I got.
I like the players as well. I'm right in between you. I'll go B+. I'm with Eric. It's tough.
I'm the highest grader here.
Yes.
Wow.
And listen, what is we? Chiefs hater gave an A. Wow, right? Like, which we know you're not, but that's what a lot of people like to try to label you. Yeah. Yes. I like what they did. It's tough to give anybody an A that doesn't really. I don't know what they would have had to have done, but I don't know how. And I'm with Eric. I like trading down. I like getting more picks. If they had more picks, I'd be more excited. But for what they did and what they needed and what was out there,
where they were drafting.
Yeah. I mean, I probably would have taken Ladd McConkey, right? At State Pat at 32, taking Ladd McConkey and been happy. But I know how much Andy Reid wants to stretch the field, so I can't hate on that. I think that's, a good pick. It's a good pick. All right, those are our grades. We got an A, a B, and a B+. The A coming from Jeffri Chadiha. Biggest upset of the night in the minds of many.
Michael Penix to the Falcons was a big deal.
Besides the 76ers eclipsing a 7-point lead in 20 seconds. But yeah.
Cheerleader, bandwagon driver, Jeffri Chadiha. When it comes to the Chiefs. Listen, with free consultations, no commissions, in-house crews, every project coming with a written warranty. Gann Asphalt keeps your parking lot safer, helps you and your business avoid unnecessary delays and costly expenses. What are you waiting for? A written warranty on every project. That's why for 30 years, they've been Kansas City's choice to solve any and all parking lot problems. One contractor, all things parking lot. It's Gann Asphalt and Concrete. Find them online at GannAsphalt.com. That's GannAsphalt.com. That's going to do it for us, for Jeffri Chadiha from the NFL Network. Eric Eager from Sumer Sports. I'm Soren Petro saying thank you very much for joining us here